Right now, the stock market is on an absolute tear, hitting numbers that honestly feel a little bit unreal. But here's the thing. Underneath all that celebration, there's this growing gap, a real disconnect between Wall Street's party and what the people running the economy are actually saying. So the big question is, are we in a genuine healthy boom, or is this a bubble just waiting for a pin? Let's dig in and see what's really going on. Okay, so first, let's just get a sense of the scale here. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, yeah, it just smashed its all-time high, closing at this massive number. And it wasn't just the Dow. The S&P 500 also blew past a huge psychological milestone. This is its first close above the 6,800 mark ever. We are truly watching history being made across the board. But this might be the craziest number of them all. $5 trillion. That's the new market cap for NVIDIA. It is the first company in history to be valued that high. I mean, what a testament to the sheer power of this AI revolution we're living through. Now, you have to understand, these huge numbers aren't just one-off flukes. No, they're the peak of this relentless surge that has basically swept across the entire market. And here's what makes this so wild, and honestly so rare. It's one thing when the NASDAQ soars because of tech, right? But for all four major US indices, we're talking large caps, small caps, the whole shebang, to hit new records on the very same day, wow. That tells you investor confidence is incredibly widespread right now. And you can just see the momentum here. It kicked off Friday, powered right through the weekend, and just kept picking up speed. A third straight record for the S&P on Tuesday, and then bam, NVIDIA's historic moment on Wednesday. It's just been an unstoppable climb. So naturally, we have to ask the big question. What in the world is fueling this fire? What's giving the market this much juice to just keep pushing higher and higher? Well, it pretty much boils down to two huge engines driving this thing. On one hand, you've got the Federal Reserve basically giving the market a giant green light. And on the other hand, you have companies reporting just absolutely knockout profits. Let's start with the Fed's part in all this. So first off, the Fed just cut interest rates again. That's the second time in a row. That makes it cheaper for everyone to borrow money, and you can already see the effect on things like mortgage rates. But the other huge piece of news was their decision to end something called quantitative tightening. So you might hear that term quantitative tightening, or QT, and wonder what the heck it is. Well, think of it this way. QT is the Fed taking its foot off the gas pedal, pulling money out of the system to slow things down. By ending QT, they're basically saying, okay, we're done tapping the brakes for now. And that's exactly the kind of move that investors love to see. Okay, now for that second engine, corporate earnings. Get this, a whopping 85% of S&P 500 companies have beaten their profit forecasts this quarter. I mean, 85%. That's a level of performance we have not seen in almost 4 years. It's just incredible. And we're not just talking about numbers on a spreadsheet. Look at the real-world impact. Qualcomm pops over 11% because of new AI chips. Caterpillar soars more than 13%. Now, of course, it's not a party for everyone. Just ask Fiserv or CVS. But the overwhelming story here is just overwhelmingly positive. And here's something that's really, really important. The good times are spreading out. For a while there, it kind of felt like big tech was the only game in town. But now, we're seeing financials, industrials, even boring old utility companies hitting new highs. That's a huge signal that the recovery is built on a much wider, much more solid foundation. Okay, so everything's looking amazing, right? The Fed is on our side, companies are crushing it. But this is where the plot thickens, because behind all of these record-breaking headlines, there's this thick fog of uncertainty setting in. And hey, that's not my metaphor. Those are the exact words from the guy steering the entire U.S. economy, Fed Chair Jerome Powell. When he says something like that, you really, really need to pay attention. So why is he talking about fog? Well, because of the government shutdown, the Fed is essentially flying blind. All of the key data they need, jobs reports, sales numbers, inflation, it's all on pause. They're making these huge billion-dollar decisions in an information vacuum. And that is why Powell went out of his way to warn everyone that another rate cut in December is absolutely not a foregone conclusion. But here's where we get that critical disconnect I mentioned. While the Fed is out there preaching caution, saying, hey, let's slow down, The market is hearing something completely different. This chart, it shows that traders are betting there's a nearly 93% chance the Fed cuts rates again in December. So you see the problem, right? This sets up a huge standoff. The Fed is flashing yellow lights, but the market is flooring the accelerator, basically demanding another shot of adrenaline from the central bank. Someone here is going to be proven wrong, and that kind of disagreement, that creates a ton of risk. And really, all of this leads us to the ultimate question for anyone trying to figure out what to do next. Is this a healthy bull market with room to run, or is it a dangerous, overheated bubble? And this is the debate happening right now on every trading desk. The bulls, they're looking at those incredible earnings reports and the Fed's recent actions and seeing a strong, sustainable rally. But the bears, they're looking at the exact same information and seeing a market that's totally disconnected from reality, a market that's ignoring direct warnings from the Fed and flying blind. And that's what it all comes down to. No one can deny this rally is historic, but are we celebrating on solid ground? Really fueled by genuine economic strength? Or is the market just dancing on some very, very thin ice, getting ready to fall right through?